Today, we welcome Conn. Ann serves as President and Chief Executive Officer for the McGregor Foundation, with more than 20 years of experience working in the senior living industry. At the beginning of her career, she worked in public accounting, performing audit, tax, and business valuation engagements. But in 2000, she joined Asbury Heights, a continuing care retirement community located in Pittsburgh. And in an effort to relocate to Ohio, she came back and joined a family-owned chain of nursing facilities located throughout Ohio, where she worked until joining McGregor in 2006 as the Chief Financial Officer. She transitioned to the Chief Operating Officer in 2017 and then took the helm as CEO in 2020. She also gives back to the community, serving on board of directors for Leading Age Ohio and Evergreen Cooperative Board. And she is a proud graduate of the Leadership Cleveland class of 2022. Please welcome Ann.
Thank you so much. I'm just so blessed and thankful to be here today. Hopefully, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick. Just give me 1 second. All right. So again, just want to say thank you so much for the opportunity to talk about what we do at McGregor. You'll see hopefully that our work is something that I'm very passionate about. And for many people who've not been caregivers before, they don't think about aging services that frequently. So just going to talk for a few minutes about McGregor and what we do, and then I'm hopeful that we'll have a lively Q&A discussion after we're finished. So again, thank you for taking your lunch and sharing it with me. So I usually like to start with this particular slide, because if you're not in aging services and you're not maybe an older adult yourself, you're not thinking about the graying of America. And over the last several years, you've been seeing things around the silver tsunami or other types of language that's been used, but these are just a couple of pieces of information that help really paint the picture. So in 2018, 26% of older adults of households had individuals over age 65. And by 2038, that's going to expand significantly to more than 34%. But if you take nothing away from this conversation, I think it's helpful to understand that by 2038, the number of households that have individuals that are age 80 and older will double. And while that's fabulous for the longevity of Americans and older adults, it can and potentially could put a strain on the infrastructure that we have in place today that supports older adults and their ability to remain in the community. We're taking that from a national level down to a state level. And you may not know that Ohio actually has the 6th highest population of older adults in the nation. And in 2025, more than 25% of the counties, so 25 out of our 88 counties, had more people that were age 65 and older than age 18 and younger. And that obviously is going to have an impact on resources in the coming years. So just want to kind of give you a history of McGregor. We've been around for a long time, and this is a story of 2 organizations that came together with a common mission around supporting older adults. So the A.M. McGregor Home, which was started in 1910, and the Amasa Stonehouse, which was started in 1877. So we have over almost 150 years of supporting older adults in Northeast Ohio. Where we are today is very different maybe than where we started. We are more than just supporting females. We have both men and women that we support across 5 locations in Northeast Ohio. We support more than 1,000 older adults daily, both in our residential side of the work that we do, as well as in our PACE program, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. We are supported through a team of about 575 employees, and that's growing every day as we expand into both Lorain and Summit counties. Where we're heading going forward, which I think is helpful because we've had to evolve over the last several years, because as the number of older adults increases, the types and services that they're desiring or that they need are changing as well. So people want to age in community. They want to stay at home. If you ask, if you're caring for an older adult and you ask them if they want to move somewhere, they more than likely will say, I'm staying in my home forever. regardless, you have to kind of carry me out. So that's part of our work now, is meeting people where they are. The other component of what we do is through our PACE program. We'll talk about that in a second. But in order for older adults to remain in the community, they have to have safe and affordable housing. And maybe if you're not following that, we have a housing shortage specifically for older adults. And it's really hard to remain in the community if you can't afford to pay your rent. And so McGregor is committed to continuing to develop affordable senior housing in Northeast Ohio to provide that safe and affordable housing for individuals who are wanting to remain in the community. We talked a little bit about our residential services, but on the campus that I shared, we provide everything from independent apartments, assisted living, skilled nursing, long-term care, and our end-of-life services through Hospice of Greater Cleveland. But we also have a philanthropic arm, which helps expand our mission well into the community, that helps other nonprofits in ways that they're able to support older adults in their missions as well. So we support 3 areas, which is affordable housing plus services, expanding our workforce, so education, and helping to grow the next group of leaders that are going to be helping to support older adults, and then community building for seniors. So these are things what we referred to previously as quality of life, but helping to battle social isolation, helping individuals stay connected to their community so that they can report a strong quality of life. I want to take a few minutes as we go into this to talk about PACE, because it is so unique. And up until this past year, we were the only PACE program in the state of Ohio. And PACE stands for Program for All-Inclusive Care for the Elderly. It is an insurance-based model, which is where we are both the insurance company as well as the service delivery, or provide the service delivery. And if you've ever been a caregiver and tried to figure out how to coordinate all of the services that an older adult needs to remain in the community, this is such a fabulous program that can help provide those coordinated benefits. So we provide all care, so preventative, primary, acute, and long-term care services through a hub that's referred to as a PACE center. And within the center, we have a full primary care clinic. So we have geriatricians and nurse practitioners that provide that primary care, physical, occupational, and speech therapy. And then day centers where individuals could come in, have lunch with their friends, get a chance to do things that are interesting and have conversation, and then full transportation to and from the clinic, which again, transportation in Cuyahoga County is a challenge for older adults, being able to rely on their transportation to both pick them up when it's scheduled and then also to deliver them where they're supposed to be going. So having our own transportation is a unique benefit that PACE is able to offer. This program is regulated by the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, and then locally by the Ohio Department of Aging. So while most people may think of it as managed care, which we're familiar with, it's so much more than just the insurance component of what we're doing. I mentioned it's all inclusive. So this is a good picture of some of the services that we provide. And I would say some of the most important ones that people say they seek out the PACE program for is the transportation, the reliable home care. Workforce is an issue across older adult services, and so having a home care that's set up that you can rely on, that's going to show up on time, that's going to be able to deliver those services is an important piece. And then just the additional add-ons, things like chore services, or when you have let's say when you have a cold, instead of having to wait to get into your primary care physician, they can see you that day in the clinic. So the proactive and preventative nature of the program, I think, speaks for itself. What I would say is the true magic of the PACE program is what we refer to as the IDT team, or the interdisciplinary team. And so each participant, and we refer to the individuals that are in the program as participants because they are participant in their care. So they get to set their goals of care working with this clinical team. There are more than 13 disciplines that help do that type of want to say troubleshooting when problems arise, or can identify, as they see the participant in different places, so they can raise an issue when it happens. And it's not a clinician dictating to someone who's not a clinician. It's really a full team that's sitting around one table that's helping to make those decisions. This team is led by a registered nurse and a master's prepared social worker. And it's about those two individuals manage a team of about 60 people, which allows them to get to know the families and to really understand the life situation of each participant. We have, I mentioned, 5 locations. We have one in Warrensville Heights, on the Forest Hill campus of McGregor, and then in Brooklyn, and then most recently added a location in Elyria and in Akron in partnership with Ohio Living. Just want to, I always like to end with a slide because I think it's helpful. It really helps paint the picture of what PACE is in action, as we say. So if you have in a traditional, what we would refer to as a fee-for-service system, if an individual keeps coming back to the emergency department with bug bites, say they have flea bites, and what the current, under that system, the clinician can treat the issue. Maybe they write a note to follow up with their primary physician, or they tell the individual to follow up with their landlord about, addressing the flea issue. That's the kind of the extent of what they can do. In the PACE program, the difference is, first, more than likely, they're not going to have to go to the emergency room to get treatment. They can get treatment in the PACE center by the clinicians that are there on site that day. We would probably send an individual out to their home to evaluate what's happening, and then they could bring that information back to the team and make the decision to pay for the pest extermination, or eliminating the root cause of the problem. And so it allows us to shift resources from the issue of treating the situation, right, from the clinical perspective, the bug bites, to addressing the root cause of the problem, and allowing that person to, not have to deal with that going forward. So it's a very unique program that we've been blessed to be able to lead for the last 15 years. And I'm excited to see it expanding across Ohio. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and open it up for questions.
And thank you so much. Let's talk a little bit to start around where you have your centers. How do you then also work with the surrounding communities, and kind of what impact do you have on those communities?
Sure. So when we look to locate a center, we're wanting to look for where older adults currently live, because an individual, since we are picking them up on a van and bringing them to the center, they can only be on the van for a period of time. So we want to be co-located in where people are already living, so they don't have to have long transports. The other piece is most of our work, I mentioned, we have 575 employees. We have more than 1,000 vendors that we contract with, who are the ones actually providing these services. We are partnered with all 3 hospital systems in Cleveland, which allows us to be flexible. People don't have to change their primary or not their specialist. If they're used to going to a certain hospital, they don't have to change. But it's important for us to be strong partners. So we work with quality providers who can deliver consistency and the services that we expect, or that we want all of our loved ones to be able to receive, right? We want to make sure that they're getting the care that they need.
And your campus in East Cleveland is expansive and provides quite a few of the services in that community. Can you talk about what's located on that campus?
Sure. So on that campus, we have 124 apartments. So 1 bedroom and a few 2-bedroom apartments, where individuals, again, they may not get care from us, but they're moving in. So it's usually age restricted, so 62 and older in those apartments. And then we have 90 apartments for assisted living, and that's where someone needs a little bit more care. Let's say that provides all of their meals and their housekeeping and their clinical services that are needed. And then we have a full nursing facility, which includes 148 1-bedroom, or not, we'll say individual rooms. So in the nursing home industry, if you're not familiar, many of the rooms are semi-private. And so to have, many of us, we didn't like sharing a room when we were younger. We probably don't want to share one now. So being able to have your own room is a unique piece. So we have rehabilitation and long-term care, and then our hospice services support that campus. The last part of that particular campus, which is 45 acres, it's a pretty expansive location, kind of tucked away, that if you don't drive through here, you may not know. But our PACE Center, Forest Hill PACE Center, is located there as well. And that particular location supports about 350 older adults, all surrounding kind of the northeast section of the county.
In talking about PACE and how being a part of the Medicaid system, what kind of impact are you anticipating with the potential and proposed changes that are coming down for Medicaid and Medicare?
So one of the good things about PACE, frankly, is that we are actually less expensive to the state of Ohio than what's referred to as the MyCare system. So in Ohio, they have managed care, which is both the Medicare and Medicaid systems together. I would anticipate that we're going to see more of a shift towards managed care. It helps the state reduce their overall expenses. The other piece I would say is that I anticipate that the state will see programs that are on the fringe start to be reduced, right? So which was part of the reason why advocacy was so important to our organization, because being the only PACE center was not something that, it's such a great program. I'd hate to see that it be eliminated because of not having a advocacy component. And so in this last budget, 2 years ago, or 2 cycles ago, we were able to advocate for PACE expansion across the state, and the legislature passed the expansion into 9 more counties. So by the end of this year, 10 counties in Ohio of the 88 will have PACE centers, which I'm really proud of, and excited that that is now an option for the older adults in those communities.
What are some of the biggest challenges McGregor is facing right now?
So I would say some of the biggest challenges are probably no different than many organizations. Workforce, in Northeast Ohio, we have a demographics problem. We have more jobs, which is great, right? We have more jobs than we have people to fill those roles. And so making sure that we are a competitive organization from the standpoint of both wages as well as having a strong culture. So I always say that my job is growing leaders. If I can help grow my team as well as the teams that they lead, then these services in some ways take care of themselves, because we are creating the culture that people want to work in and be connected. We have a compelling mission, I think. If you've ever been a caregiver, taking care of an older adult is very rewarding. And so being part of that, wherever you fit in, is something that I think people can really resonate with. So workforce is one of our biggest issues. There's not going to be enough resources to go around with some of the changes that are happening at the national and state level. So making sure that we are efficient in the work that we do and are best in class in the work that we do. So I would say those are 2 of the kind of high level things that I would highlight.
How do you interact or communicate with the major hospital systems in our region?
So we have a full group of a full team that actually goes out and does one that does presentations, so that both from an emergency department perspective as well as the case managers and social workers at the hospitals know about the program and understand how we fit. From a leadership perspective, we have care teams that talk about when there's ever an issue, let's say with coordination of care, to try to work through those particular situations, as we have a close relationship with the leaders. And I'd say lastly, trying to bring them on, individuals that represent the hospital systems, bring them on campus or to the PACE Center so they can get a picture of it. Once you've seen it in action, it's a little easier to understand. So that's one of the other ways that we do outreach.
What can we as community members do to help advocate for McGregor or the aging population?
Well, one thing I would say is be active in your political environment, making sure that as some of the changes that are happening, I think I just want to step back because it is difficult. There's a lot of change happening, first of all. So making sure that you are connected with your having your voice heard. So if you have some sort of information that you get when you're seeing that Medicaid's being cut, when you're seeing that SNAP. So the SNAP changes that are happening with the food insecurity, many of the people who get it are children and older adults. So when you see those changes that are happening, make sure you're, sending the email, picking up the phone and calling. Most people, while they may not be happy about what's happening, they're also not letting their elected officials know. So we've had to become much more active in advocacy as an organization because of the individuals who we're representing may not have that voice or may not be as active in that area. So making sure that people understand Medicaid is a benefit that should be there for older adults. We often think that Medicaid, and I'm going to say this in a way, that is only there when people are poor. And yes, that's true. It should be there for those individuals as well, but caring for older adults is also very expensive. And many people who have saved their entire life and have a nest egg spend down their resources. And when they've spent all of their resources, rely on Medicaid to provide that care. And so when it is not available, then they're going to go without services because it's not like they can go out and get a job. There's not a workforce requirement, as they talk about those things. So reminding people that you can't stay silent. So I would ask you, when you see these types of things, please send an email, pick up the phone and call.
How is McGregor working to raise awareness of the need and importance for aging services? I think so many don't think about it until suddenly your family is in it and it's overwhelming and it's confusing and you don't know where to turn.
That's very true. That's why I love to start. If you haven't been a caregiver before, or if you haven't had to try to navigate the system, it can be very overwhelming. So from an outreach perspective, I think we try to do outreach events, bringing people on campus. From our intern programs to our workforce programs, frankly, just helping individuals understand the system helps eliminate some of the confusion. I would say doing things like this, being able to talk about our work and raise awareness from speaking engagements. Everyone in my executive leadership team serves on a board of directors. So helping to make sure that we're sitting at the table when people are raising or making changes, I think is another way for us to have influence.
And you've been in this line of work for a large portion of your career. What have you observed as some of the evolution of the industry and services provided and how things are being addressed over that time?
So I would say when I started in the industry, the individuals who are now living in independent were probably living in the nursing home. So we've seen a significant shift in where people are getting care, right? So what's the individuals coming from the hospital that are coming for rehabilitation services were probably sitting in a step down unit 5 years ago. So with the I guess, evolution of kind of where care is, where people are comfortable getting care, we've had to increase our clinical capabilities. We've had to increase our technology. Our spend, I would say, was probably maybe 5%. It's now closer to 10% of our overall expenses in the technology because it is, everybody's on a computer. That's how we document. So those types of transitions and just making sure that you're staying up to date. And lastly, I would just highlight the need for basic services that's probably something that's been consistent. like food insecurity, housing, especially for individuals that are on fixed incomes and being able to afford an apartment. That has been consistent for the last 20 years. That hasn't changed.
And what are there certain success stories from PACE or from other of the McGregor models that you really stand out to you?
So I am going to point to a most recent success story because I think I mentioned that I feel like one of my important roles is creating leaders. And in the last couple of years, we've been very focused on culture at McGregor. And 4 years ago, we did a culture survey, which is a Barrett's culture survey, which is an international program. And our scores were probably in the 25th percentile. And this last year we completed them. So this is our 4th year, and we were in the top 10 percentile. So bottom 25 to top 10. And we did that through this just a consistency of understanding what our teams needed and what they were looking for, and then putting creative plans together to address what they were asking. They asked for leadership development, and in the last 3 years, we've launched a leadership academy internally that spans 2 years, an Elevate program, which identifies individuals who are in individual contributor roles that want to look for opportunities for future leadership. And I think that is a success story. Again, we don't have enough team members. People don't come out of school going, I want to work with older adults. So we have to make sure that they get exposure to it and see career potential at McGregor. So that would be one of the wins that I would point to.
And as you look down the road, let's say 8 to 10 years from now, what is the vision for McGregor?
So McGregor is still supporting older adults. I would say that we are continuing to partner with organizations and adapt to what the community needs. The 10 years from now, the number of older adults, as we just shared, in 2038 is going to double. So the demand is not going away. So making sure that we're being efficient with the resources we have and mindful about how we invest them. So I know that people still want to age at home. So, will there be opportunities to have technology that can help further that timeline for how long people can stay there? But yes, continuing to be a community resource well into the future. I mean, for the next 100 years.
And if someone is interested in getting involved and supporting, how do they reach out?
So there is a link on our website. I think you will have my email. I can happy to share. So feel free. I shared this in my Leadership Cleveland class. I'm always open to reach out to me directly. If I can't answer your question, I can get in touch with somebody who can. My entire team is listed on the website with our email. So click on it, that email, just send us a question and we'll be more than happy to get back. We see ourselves as a community resource, and so we want to be there to do that.
Well, Ann, thank you so much for sharing all of the work McGregor is doing in such an important space. And I encourage everyone on the call today to follow up with Ann, to reach out. As Ann said, the data shows that this is increasingly becoming an opportunity here in our community to help our seniors. So please reach out if you, family, friends need the resources. And thank you and your team so much for the work you do.